Greetings and bienvenue, Midnight Crew. Thank you for returning to this broadcast, and welcome to new viewers joining us for the first time. If you like a video, then feel free to subscribe.
In this thread, weird happenings at workplaces or anywhere that your work required you to go. Work stories only, though, please. No one wants to hear about what you saw in the mirror while taking a shower. Bonus points for hospital stories.
4 or 5 years ago, working in a dingy hotel that was being renovated until the owners ran out of money. Still open, just had incomplete work left. Lots of materials left in storage in the conference room. One room had 200 or 300 chairs in their storage. Quiet night, chatting away with the receptionist. Notice a little old lady in the chair room on CCTV. Assume it's a guest who wandered off. Go to check. No one there. JPG. From the reception desk, the room this woman was in was through a set of fire doors, down a straight corridor with nowhere to turn off, no guest rooms, only locked staff, only rooms like the sales office and such. All the fire doors were alarmed and shut, so she couldn't have gone out of a fire door, couldn't have passed me without me knowing or gotten past the receptionist. Not to mention we'd had a self-termination in the hotel about a month beforehand.
I stocked toys at night at Walmart in Arizona. I had 4 people in the span of an hour and 30 minutes ask me about balloons and where to find them. When I showed them, they all bought the exact same kind. I doubt it's paranormal, but damn if I wasn't spooked, especially considering it was like 2 a.m. Wednesday and we had like 2 clients max on non-holiday weekdays.
Got some. Used to work in a retail store that had some accidents, come to think of it. Accidents were common. 2 months into my new job. Go to the back room to get an item for a customer. The back room has 10 to 15 foot tall shelves made of steel. Grab the long ladder, proceed to climb to the top. Get to the top looking for the box with their stuff. Hear someone grab my ladder and violently shake it. Almost fall off. Grab the box and nope off it. Get customer their stuff and hang around the sales floor for the rest of the shift. Another that wouldn't be as fitting to Greentext, so we'll type it. I worked there for about 2 years and 5 months, and I was having my lunch and having my smoke when a middle-aged lady walked up to me and asked about a guy, Danny. Told her I don't know Danny, and she walked off into the store. Didn't see her after that until about 6 months later. She asked again about Danny. It was the exact same conversation. She walked off, once again into the store. I asked my manager who had been there since 2006, and she mentioned that a guy named Daniel was killed in a PLE, powerlifting equipment accident, some time ago. His wife promptly committed self-termination a day after the funeral. Some of my coworkers met her too. She usually comes around 11 p.m. or 12 a.m. if someone is alone and on a smoke break. It's weird because she didn't seem like a ghost to me, just a normal person. I got a few more that aren't super interesting, but made me nope if anyone's interested. All right, gonna start with my favorite one, actually. We had a powerlifting equipment machine. Not sure if it was the one that caused the accident, but it was a power jack. Basically a pallet jack on crack, pick related. In any case, pretty much everyone is convinced that it's cursed or haunted, so they named it lovingly, Christine. I've used it multiple times and can vouch that damn thing has a min of its own. I was pulling stock out of the midnight truck, alone. The driver had to take a piss, and when backing up, it decided it didn't want to stop and ended up pinning me against one of the steel shelving units. It was persistent in keeping me there, but I eventually got it to go forward. The machine has been inspected numerous times and it always comes back clean. Store was too lazy to buy a new one. Mind you, it's tried pinning me a lot of times before. That was the only time, really. Now more green text for some miscellaneous events. Be stocking late at night, in the fruit aisle. Not a goddamn soul in the building. Hear somebody walk behind me. Look, nobody there. Go back to my work. Feel a tap on my shoulder. Still no one. Feel my shoulder. Not wet, so it wasn't water. About 10 p.m. Working in fruit and juices again. Hear this loud-ass scream. A few customers, they hear it, freak out. Barely even sounds like a person. Dart to where the sound came from. Nothing but water and soda sitting on their shelves. Ask the manager about it. She says, "Oh, it happens. Just ignore it." Literally what? I talked to some of my coworkers about this. They don't believe in ghosts, really. But they said that they even think the place is haunted.
I work at a hospital. Oh, sure, it's a place to get better or to be taken care of, but it's also a place of disease and death. We have a really creepy basement. Long halls with low lighting, pipes running along the ceiling, and machines and generators that hum on eerily. They used to store empty patient beds down there. I also know where our on-site morgue is, though I don't have access. You need security's clearance beforehand when entering. I've seen them take bodies there, though. I've got a creepy story from one of the flooring guys that works there. Be the flooring guy. Working late after hours. On hands and knees installing the floor. Finishing up for the night. Hear noise close by. Thinks it's one of the other flooring guys. No big deal. .jpg. Back to installing. Starts to feel being watched. Starts getting creeped out, but still works onward. Suddenly the room starts to get chilly. He starts thinking sad, depressing thoughts like family members dying, him committing self-termination, killing his family, etc. No idea why. Generally a happy dude, loves his fam, etc. Feels a tap on one of his shoulders. Jumps. Again, thinking it's one of the other flooring dudes working late with him. Turns around. No one is there. Back to work. Time passes, then later. Hear a strange noise again outside the room. Looks out into the hallway. Sees a large, shadowy figure float towards the ceiling. Nope. Calling it an early night.
I work in a restaurant and all of the tables are numbered. The weirdest table seems to be table 40. It is the most closed-off table in the restaurant and people are very weird about sitting there. Some people really want to and some really don't. I've personally had some weird experiences with that table. One day, I'm at the front of the restaurant. Turn around and look at the general direction of table 40. Sees one of the servers coming around the corner with a tray full of drinks. I turn and look away for a second. Look back at table 40. The server is gone. There is no way she could have moved that fast. Sees her come around the corner with the same tray full of drinks. It was a strange experience, but I didn't think too much about it until it happened again another night with a different server. That's when I started to realize how weird table 40 is. I and many others get deja vu around table 40. One morning I'm training a new host. We were doing things that needed to be done before we opened. We were in the section with table 40. New host says she feels like she has done this with me before. This was the first time we had ever worked together, and it was the first time she had worked in this restaurant at all. I realized she was standing at table 40. 3 spoopy 5 me. One night me and another host turned the corner by table 40. We were casually walking when we almost slammed into a server. She was at table 40. She had not been there a second ago when we turned the corner. We still don't know what happened and how she appeared there.
I used to work at a rundown mini-golf arcade place, and one of my coworkers died the night before he was supposed to come in for an early shift. He drove down a hill a few towns over and his brakes failed. He was thrown out of the car and crushed because he wasn't wearing a seatbelt. His girlfriend in the passenger seat walked away from the crash. About an hour into the shift, we got a call from his family explaining why he hadn't shown up, and the management held a quick meeting to let everyone know. While it was being explained, one of the maintenance dudes turned sheet white and had to sit down. According to him, earlier that morning he had seen our dead coworker outside setting up for a birthday party and said hello. He said that the dead guy didn't even look up or acknowledge him, and that he thought it was unusual because he was normally a pretty friendly dude. The maintenance guy was absolutely adamant about seeing his face clearly and the weird feeling he got. He finished his shift and never came back, but no one else saw anything weird.
Worked in a children's hospital as a casual nurse for a year. That place was haunted. Had a children's toys start moving by themselves a few times. They can't all have faulty wiring, and it was always at night. On each ward there was a playroom, and a button to press for assistance in there. The amount of times at night that a playroom assistance buzzer would go off without anyone being in there was interesting. I have 2 other stories. Working the night shift in the adolescent wing. Fell asleep on the couch in the playroom on break. Awoke freezing cold about 15 minutes into my sleep. Look up to see a shadow standing over me. Close my eyes and hope that it will go away. Radio starts playing. Bolt out of there. When I got out of the room, I checked each patient's room and all of them were accounted for. The nurse I was working with said she saw no one come in and out when I was asleep. Other story. Working on the night shift again. With a nurse who I've worked with previously. Really great to work with, loved her job, friendly and reliable. Manager told us we needed to clean up the storeroom because it was messy. Nurse friend decided to go because she knew where everything belonged. About 10 minutes after she had gone and we could hear banging and screaming. Ran down to get her. Tried to open the door, wouldn't budge. She's screaming for help. Run to grab the manager who has a key. As we start to run back down the corridor, she manages to open the door. Runs down the hallway past us and straight out of the ward. Apparently she quit the next day. I asked a couple of other nurses what happened, and then she felt something grab her leg, the lights turned off, and then she couldn't open the door. I also used to work in a jail. Anyone interested in a few stories from there? Worked casually at a jail as a nurse. Working in a reception jail. We get a lot of freshies. Freshies are new offenders. They come to us after spending a few days in a police cell. During my second week this happened. Without going into too much detail, I can tell you guys a few things. I didn't see the crime scene, however I know that there was no blood spilled. I also heard from numerous sources that each of them were in on minor drug offenses. Neither of them had been deemed to be in withdrawal, and neither of them were suffering from psychosis. Each of them had knocked up. That is, pressed the buzzer in their cells to speak to a prison guard at least once, and expressed their dislike for the cell. Of course they were told tough luck, this is jail. Whether this was because they disliked each other, or for other reasons, I can't be certain. However, I do know they had spent the day in there without complaints, and the only time I actually saw them they seemed to be fine with each other. The fact that both of them knocked up was strange to me. Usually it's just one inmate that doesn't like the other, and has a whinge to the officers. It's fairly rare for even that to occur, because when people come into jail they realize they don't have a choice in their accommodation, nor their cellmate. One other story incoming. On night duty one night a few months ago. When someone escapes, or there is the threat of an escape, they call helicopters in to survey the jail grounds from the air. About 2 a.m. I hear helicopters flying overhead, with no radio announcement or a phone call to tell us what's going on. I step outside to see if I can see where exactly they were headed. I can hear the helicopter flying around in the distance, so I start to wonder if maybe they were just doing a firing exercise. My stomach drops when I hear them turn around and start to head back my way again. I run back inside and shut the door just in case there is an escapee, and they're in my area. The helicopters fly around for about an hour and then stop entirely. During that time we are each required to radio in and state our whereabouts. At around 5 a.m. the night senior, basically the guy who runs the jail overnight, comes in and asks me if I heard anything strange during the night coming from the roof. I reply no, and ask him why. Apparently a few inmates heard some strange noises coming from above them, as if someone was walking heavily across the roof and screaming. When the night senior went to investigate, he reported seeing a bipedal shadow standing on the roof. When he yelled and shone his torch towards the roof, it ran to the opposite side of the roof and jumped off the 2-story building. Being a maximum security jail, it is of course incredibly difficult for a member of the public to get in. There were 5 officers on and 1 nurse working that night, and each of them were accounted for. There were no inmates missing. There was also no ladder or easy method for this person to get onto the roof. They must have had climbing gear to get up there, yet the shadow did not appear to have a bag, nor was any equipment found.
I was a shift supervisor at a store. I honestly never believed in ghosts and the paranormal until I started working there. The shift supervisors are the first ones there when opening the store. Usually by 30 minutes or so to get the cash report in order, walk the store to make sure it looks nice. My first experience happened during my very first week working there. To get to the office, you go through a door in the back. This opens up to where you can go left to the break room and lockers, or to the right where you go through another door to get into the office. These doors are key locked, and it makes a very distinct noise when someone is keying into the door. The doors are very heavy and loud when opening. I'm sitting in the office and I keep hearing weird movement noises. Like someone walking, shuffling around stuff. I look up at the cameras and no one is there. The store is still locked. I continue doing paperwork when I hear the door key in noises happen, followed by the door opening and closing. I'm thinking my store manager has come in early and looked up through the window in the door to see no one. I then hear what sounds like the locker doors opening and closing. I open the office door and peer into the break room to see all of the locker doors open. This creeped me out. I closed all the lockers and went back to the office, just counting down until my cashier arrived. I didn't tell anyone about my experiences for months until I walked into the office where another shift supervisor and my manager were sitting, and my manager asked if I had met our extra staff member yet. I asked WTF he was talking about. He laughed and asked if I ever heard/saw anything unusual. Again, I didn't want to come off as some crazy lunatic, so I just shrugged and asked, like what? Then they both tell me that there's a ghost in our store. I was honestly so relieved, because I was starting to think I was losing it by this time because of what all had happened to me.
This is the first thread on X where I can actually contribute. Basically, back when I used to work part-time in my gloomy local grocery store, we had tons of old broken-down freezer parts and stuff in the back room. One of those junkets was an old broken-down ice box, like the kind you see out in front of stores with bag ice in them. This one had been in the back of the store for at least 15 years and was really grimy with a big padlock on it. No one had the key either. Well, one night when I was digging around back there for a screwdriver, I heard 3 really loud thumps that scared the hell out of me. I was looking all over trying to figure out where it came from. I thought maybe a big bird had gotten in through the loading dock again. When my eyes happened to skim over the icebox just as another series of thumps happened, and I swear it came from inside the icebox. Each impact had been enough to rattle that big-ass padlock, and for a moment I was just frozen staring at it, unable to really process what I'd just seen. I was actually in the middle of walking closer to it. Having rationalized it as somebody who worked there, having found the key and maybe put an animal in there as a prank, we were out in the boonies after all. When another thump basically made me piss myself. I literally ran full tilt to the front office and practically drugged my manager to the back. The store used to close with a 3-person crew, so the only people there were me, the manager, and a single cashier, and to my manager's credit, he actually believed me when I told him what happened. He too thought maybe somebody had found the key and put something inside, so he went over to the hardware section and busted out a pair of bolt cutters to get the lock off. He even made me stand way back when he opened the door just in case, but there was nothing inside. At that point he thought I was pranking him, so I told him to check the security cameras if he didn't think I was telling the truth. I went up to the office to watch them with him, and while the angle wasn't great and the black and white picture was ultra grainy, we could make out the edges of the icebox door moving subtly. And my total freakout was all there on tape as well.
Not exactly at work, but coming home from it. Happened a few years ago, sorry for the bad writing. 11 p.m., just arriving at the subway terminal after working my ass off. I was very sleepy. There weren't that many people left around. Most of them heading to the bus lines. There was an old man struggling to lean and pick up his cane from the floor. Trying to be polite, I reach it and give it to the man, who gives me a wide smile. A truly joyful one, and then gave me a warm hug, saying in slightly slow-paced words, "Thank you, son." Trying to be nice, I returned the hug, although I thought he was just senile. I smiled back and nodded before parting ways. I clearly heard him saying, "I'll see you back in home." "Anytime, sir. Bye, go downstairs to catch my bus." Suddenly freeze, realizing what he said. And the clothing he was wearing a red and blue windbreaker. Colors looked 90-ish, and gray pants grandpa, or as we called him, Papa Ruby. He had died many years earlier from heart disease. Loved him dearly, but had never had a chance to say goodbye. Once back home, I told Grandma what just happened. She told me she dreamt of him saying he missed some of us. Never felt a hug so warm and loving from somebody like from that man on the subway. Never saw him again either.
Working as night janitor from 10 p.m. to 6 a.m. at a mid-sized supermarket. Get called to come in. It's my night off. I get 4 nights on. Other dude gets 3. Gotta get there before 11 p.m. Night stalkers control the keys. My employing company is just contracted. Dust mop floors in preparation for later automatic floor scrubber. Filling scrubber in tiny janitor closet. Get a call from my boss. Thanks for coming in, anon. You are back to 7 days a week again. Have a brief thought that the other dude quit. Boss says other dude was found hanging in a shed that afternoon. Apparent self-termination. Just then the light in the closet goes out. Air gets thick. Hair stands up on arms and neck. Oh great, the scrubber is gonna overflow. I'll call you back. Maneuver around the scrubber in a pitch-dark closet. Shut off water. Go look for stalker bro. He can take a bulb off the shelf for store use. Bro gets a bulb. Doesn't work. Try others doing the same thing. Light never works again. For half a month, work every night. Only get creepy feels on his scheduled nights. Other dude apparently had no state ID. Couldn't fill out appropriate paperwork. Getting paid in small cash advances. His girlfriend was constantly on him to get a real check. Warrants preventing him from getting his state ID. Committed his termination from a combination of money problems, meth addiction, and nagging girlfriend. A week later, I almost died there from a freon or coolant leak. Pretty sure that's unrelated though.
I work as a security guard. Night shift at a business complex. Finish my patrol of the multi-level parking lot. Just as I'm about to return to my booth, I hear rapid footsteps several meters behind me. Startled, I quickly turn back and shine my flashlight only to see nobody there. Radio the chief who's at the surveillance monitors. Possible trespasser at parking lot, ground floor. Proceeding to investigate. Chief assures me that he sees nothing on the infrared cameras, save for me getting startled, but gives me the go-ahead anyway. I inspect the ground floor and there's nothing. I go one floor up, shining my flashlight here and there. Suddenly, out of the corner of my eye, I see something darting behind the support beam. Parking lot, floor 1. See anything, Chief? He says the camera keeps flickering and disconnecting. Nope.jpg. I walk a few paces closer to the support beam. Anyone there? Chief suddenly radios me with a trembling voice.
Stand down. I repeat, stand down. Get out of there, now.
What's wrong, Chief? Noping at this point.
Just get the hell out of there.
I comply and run back to the ground floor where I see the chief waiting with a taser in his hand. So are we gonna call the cops or what? What was up there? Chief says that during the few flickers on the monitor, he caught a glimpse of something hunched over behind the support beam, as it was taller than the ceiling. Humanoid in general outline, but with abnormally long arms and short legs, almost like a gorilla but a lot skinnier. The recording file was corrupted. Calls the cops, saying that some sort of large animal had wandered in because they wouldn't believe him if he told them what he thought he saw. Animal control arrives with nets and other tools for subduing animals. We escorted them to where we last saw it, but there were no traces of it anywhere. It's as if it just vanished. We didn't tell anyone else about this, fearing that we'd get laughed at.
I hope that you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. If you enjoyed tonight's story, then please subscribe to the channel as more green texts will appear daily. A new broadcast will appear when the clock strikes midnight Central Time.
Remember to check out the Odyssey page in the description for a second archive of the channel's videos.
There's also a Rumble archive as a backup.